Sometimes the scariest part of a horror film is the ending, so I thought it would be fun today to rank some scary horror endings, to put them into a tier list and see what are the scariest horror endings. This tier list is of course just my opinion. I will leave the tier list in the description so you can always play along with me and let me know which ones you think are the scariest in the comments. I've done a few tier lists on ranking brutal horror endings, like with all of my tier list videos. Let's go over our tiers to begin. Starting at the top in S tier, we have Scared to Death. A tier is I'm Not Sleeping Tonight. B tier is I Can Deal With This. C tier is Iconic but Not Even a Flinch. And finally, D tier is Eye Roll. So as you can probably tell, these are ranked from the scariest at the top down to the bottom, the ones that just aren't really scary at all. Starting off with our first film, which is Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. I watched this film because of Possessed by Horror. She always talks about it, so I finally got round to watching it. This is literally the scariest found footage film I've ever seen. The amount of times I jumped at the end. The ending of this film, I had to pause it because it was just so intense. I've only seen this film once so far, but I definitely need to watch it again when I'm feeling brave. We follow a group of people who are live streaming themselves inside of a old abandoned haunted building, which happens to be an asylum. They realise that when they're in there and things are happening to them, that their views are going up. So they just keep pushing themselves and keep pushing the limits of these vengeful spirits. At the end of this film, we do actually see possession. And because it's found footage, the people are filming themselves. We get a lot of jump cuts to the people that are possessed, looking just manic and super, super scary. There's just no doubt in my mind that this one has to go in S tier. Scared to Death. Next up is another found footage film. This one is Butterfly Kisses, another hidden gem and really underrated good found footage film. And this one we follow a man that finds a bunch of videotapes. These all end up being on a student project that was never finished. This student project is centered around the urban legend of Peeping Tom. The filmmaker decides to continue this student project and ends up getting obsessed. The legend of Peeping Tom is absolutely terrifying. He's a sinister presence that you can spot at the end of a tunnel, but you will know when it's too late for you because you will feel butterfly kisses on your cheek. Butterfly kisses are basically when you feel someone's eyelashes on your cheek. Towards the end of the film, one of the people working behind the camera actually ends up capturing Peeping Tom on camera, and she believes that she's figured out a way to defeat him. Basically, when you blink, he gets closer. So she slices her eyelids so she doesn't ever blink again. Honestly, this film is terrifying. I don't think the ending is the scariest part of the film, so I'm going to put this one in A tier. The next film is one that is partially found footage, and that is Sinister. In Sinister, we also follow a man that finds a bunch of film reels. He finds these in the loft of the new house that him and his family have just moved into. This man is a writer and his family don't know it, but he actually chose to move into this house because of its tragic past. He writes about true crime and he thinks that he may get some inspiration in this new home. He decides to watch these film reels and they end up being snuff films of whole families being murdered. At the end of this film, we find out that it is actually one young child in each of these families committing these murders, and they are committing them because of an entity called Mr. Boogie. This sinister entity gets these children to commit these horrific acts and then takes the children away with him. At the end of the film, we actually get to see the little girl in this family murder the family that we've been watching for this whole film. So for just that, the ending is very shocking and surprising. But then we get to see her go off with Mr. Boogie, and he looks absolutely terrifying and always gets me with those jump scares. So I'm going to put this one in A tier. I'm Not Sleeping Tonight. Next up, we have Talk to Me. This film follows a group of friends who all try out this new party game involving a mummified severed hand. This party game enables players to conjure spirits and to even let them into their body for a short amount of time, There are rules that come with this game, and the rules are basically that they can only do this for a short amount of time, so they make sure that the spirits don't stay inside them, and they must blow out the candle at the end. Things inevitably end up going wrong when Riley has the spirit inside him for too long and it decides to stay inside him. They try so many different things to try and get it out of him, which leads us to the end where our main character Mia, it basically looks like she's going to push him out into the road because the spirits want him to die so they can latch onto him and have him forever, but instead she sacrifices herself and jumps in front of the car. This is a very tragic ending. After she does this, we do actually get to see that she is now on the other end of the hand. She is one of the spirits that people can let into them. This isn't really scary, but it is quite creepy, so I'm going to put it in B tier. I can deal with this. We now have Alien Romulus. This is the most recent Alien film where we follow a group of people that are exploring an old abandoned space station. They're seeing what they can find and what's going on with it, but are quickly confronted with an inhuman life form. Like in most of the Alien films, we really focus on the people trying to get away, hide, and fight back against the aliens. But the ending to this one is definitely something that sticks with you and stands out because we see the birth of a half human, half alien being, and it is absolutely terrifying. We end with one of our main characters, Rain, defeating this offspring and then just injecting it into space. Seeing this human xenomorph hybrid on the big screen was truly an experience, so I'm going to put this one in A tier. Next is yet another found footage film. We do have a lot of found footage on this list, and I think that's because, in my opinion, it's the scariest subgenre. So this next one is The Blair Witch Project. In this film, we follow 3 student filmmakers as they are filming a documentary on the Blair Witch. They first go around talking to townspeople, asking them about the legend and if they know anything about it, before going into the woods themselves to further investigate. Some people think it's a really good and really terrifying ending, and some people do have the argument of not much happens or we don't see too much, but I do personally think sometimes things are just best left up to the imagination. At the end of this film, they're in a creepy abandoned house and we see one of the filmmakers, Mike, just standing in the corner staring at the corner. It's a really creepy and bizarre visual. I think the ending is more creepy than terrifying, so I am going to put it in B tier. As above, so below. In As Above, So Below, we follow a group of people that go investigating in the Paris catacombs. But once they delve into them, their exit becomes blocked, and the only way for them to progress is to go down. As they go deeper, they see some of their worst nightmares come to life. This film ends with some of the people actually making it out, but they make it out by going down and end up finding an exit, which leads to a manhole in the street, but everything is backwards, so they've come out into basically a different reality. I definitely think this ending is more creepy talking about it than actually seeing it on screen, so I think I am going to put it in C tier. We now have the first ever Friday the 13th film. This film is set at Camp Crystal Lake, and we follow some camp counselors that get targeted by a deranged serial killer. Towards the end, we find out that this killer is actually Pamela Voorhees. Her son Jason drowned in the lake because of the carelessness of the camp counselors, so she's getting revenge. They do end up killing Pamela, but right at the end, when one of the counselors is just chilling in a boat on the lake, Jason the boy jumps out of the water and grabs her. This is a great jump scare because it looks all peaceful, but obviously it's a horror film, so maybe you are kind of expecting it, and it is a kind of jump scare that really only gets you the first time around because it's just one that you won't forget. It's an absolute iconic moment. I think I am going to put it in B tier though. It's now the next day, but I am back to finish this tier list. So next is the film Cobweb. In Cobweb, we follow a little boy that is hearing strange noises in his bedroom walls at night. He tells his parents, but they assure him that it's all in his imagination. But as time goes on, he notices that his parents are acting a little bit strange, and that they may be hiding a secret. So at the end of this film, we get to see that the noises weren't all in his imagination, and that it's actually his sister that was living in his walls. His parents kept her locked up because of her deformities. But when she comes out, she is kind of like a spider creature. To be honest, the CGI isn't the best, but I do really like this story, and I think it's a really good one, especially to watch around Halloween. We do get to see the little boy escape at the end. He manages to leave with his teacher, who saves him. I honestly would say that the ending is probably the least scary part of the film. I would say there's a lot more scares leading up to the end, just because the reveal, I think, isn't as scary as kind of like the thought of what it could be. So I am going to put this one in C tier. Next up is The Ritual. I absolutely love this film. In this film, we follow a group of friends that go out on a trip into the woods. They plan on doing a lot of hiking and camping. As they get deeper into the woods, they start to notice some strange things, some strange symbols, and some other really creepy and disgusting things. But the ending is where the whole film really takes a complete shift. At the end, we get to see that they are actually being pursued, and they've now been kidnapped by this cult that worship these massive creatures that are their gods. Throughout the film, we don't really know what's pursuing them, what is lurking in the woods. But at the end, we see it all. It kind of changes the whole genre of the film, and I really do like when a horror film has a tone shift. I would say this is when the horror really ramps up, but I think I'm going to put this one in B tier. Next up is Paranormal Activity, and I know these films can be quite divisive. Some people really like them, some people aren't a fan. I personally really do like these films. I think they're done really well. I love found footage in general, and I generally think these are so creepy. In this film, we follow a couple that are suspicious that something may be going on in their house, especially at night whilst they're asleep, so they decide to put cameras around their house to see if they can pick anything up, see if they can see anything in the footage, and that is exactly what happens. They do end up picking up Paranormal Activity. At the end of this film, we see one of our main characters, Katie, basically being possessed. As she gets out of bed, she's acting very stiff and strange. She then kind of magically throws her partner's body towards the camera, and then she comes towards the camera before it cuts to black. Now, I really like this ending because the whole film is kind of a slow burn. We are just watching the cameras, but we're seeing things move. We're seeing signs of some spirits in the home. And although we don't get a massive ending, we don't get something crazy happening, I think this is still kind of crazy in comparison to just like the small little things we're seeing throughout the film. So I am going to put this one in B tier. Next is Late Night with the Devil. This one is kind of a found footage film. It is found footage, but we're watching it as if we're watching a TV show that aired. So it doesn't necessarily look found footage like some of the other ones. In Late Night with the Devil, we get to see the Halloween special of the late night talk show Night Owls. In this special, they have all sorts of different kinds of strange guests, including an alleged possessed girl. Towards the end, we get to see that she is in fact possessed. We're seeing this broadcast as part of a mockumentary because it unleashed an evil amongst the viewers at home. Things really get crazy at the end. The possessed girl ends up killing some people, and the talk show gets kind of transported into a different reality where he's seeing some really disturbing things. I wouldn't say the ending is terrifying. There are definitely some really creepy moments, and it is just absolutely bonkers. So I think I am going to put this one in iconic, but not even a flinch, because it's more just kind of like visually really entertaining and just very strange. We now have Smile. Smile is a curse film. You get this curse from basically seeing someone off themselves in front of you. They are doing this after they got the curse, and then after 7 days, if they haven't gotten rid of the curse, they will have to off themselves in front of someone to pass it on, and they do this whilst they are smiling, so it is really, really creepy. At the end of the first Smile film, we realise that they are doing this because at the end they're kind of in like a trance from the smile monster. Our main character is a therapist, and she gets this curse at the start of the film when one of her clients offs themselves in front of her. we get to see these 7 days where she starts to see things, strange things start to happen to her, and then all the way to the 7th day, the end of the film, is where we actually see the curse take her, and she ends up setting herself alight because she ends up seeing this massive demon and basically puts the people that have this curse into a kind of trance to make them do it in front of someone else. I love these films so much. I think the creature design of this smile monster is so cool. I'm going to put this one in A tier. We now have the film Lamb. This is a very strange film. It's an A24 film, and we follow a couple that live on a farm, and one of their sheep gives birth to a half human, half sheep creature, and they decide to keep it and raise it as their own. To be honest, the most part of this film is really wholesome. The lamb is so cute, especially when they put little clothes on it. And I would say the horror elements just really come in at the end, where we get this really unexpected end scene where a kind of like demonic goat creature comes to take the lamb away. This was so unexpected on my first watch. It terrified me, so it's going to have to go in A tier. Next is the film Trick or Treat. This is a horror anthology film all set around Halloween. We see lots of different stories play out, and this is where we get the iconic horror villain of Sam. At the end of this film, we actually get to see Sam come and visit someone because they haven't been following the rules. There are a set of rules in this film, and one of the rules is to always hand out candy, and this man hasn't been doing that, so he gets a visit from Sam. After his scary visit, he does hand out candy, but he soon sees his fate when he is killed by a bunch of zombie children. These are children that he actually previously caused to die from crashing a bus. I would definitely say this is more of a fun, entertaining watch than a scary watch, so I am going to put it in C tier, iconic but not even a flinch. Next is 10 Cloverfield Lane. This is the second film in the Cloverfield trilogy. In this film, we follow a group of people that are in a bunker. They've been put there because a strange man claims to have rescued them because he informs them that outside is basically kind of like an apocalyptic situation now. There's been an outbreak. The world outside has changed. The people inside the bunker don't know whether this man is telling the truth or not, and we spend the whole film kind of going backwards and forwards, wondering if he is actually telling the truth. But the ending, we get our answer when our main character escapes and finds out that the man is telling the truth. We don't get to see too much of this outside world, so I think I am going to put this one in C tier. We now have the original A Nightmare on Elm Street. In A Nightmare on Elm Street, we follow the villain of Freddy Krueger. He is a dream demon. He comes to visit you in your nightmares and takes control of them. If he kills you in your nightmares, then you're dead in real life. Our main character being targeted by Freddy is a schoolgirl called Nancy. She does manage to figure out a way to confront Freddy and get him out of her dreams, but right at the end, we see Nancy go off with her friends in a car, but the hood goes up and we see it's kind of like a Freddy car. It's got the same red and green stripes that are on his jumper. The windows go up and she starts banging on them for help because she was previously waving goodbye to her mum. But then suddenly we see Freddy smash through the window of the door and grab her mum. This is quite a wild ending. It's very iconic. I think I am going to put this one in B tier because it's quite a good jump scare at the end. We now have Don't Worry Darling. This is kind of a psychological thriller with some horror elements. It definitely has a horrifying ending. In this film, we kind of see the perfect town. Everything looks very similar. All the women are just housewives and all the men go out to work. The women spend their days kind of doing whatever they want, but one of the housewives starts to suspect something sinister may be going on, so she begins to investigate, and this just starts unraveling a whole big thing. The end of this film is just a crazy plot twist, something that I never would have thought it would be. So it actually turns out that they are all in a simulation, and none of this perfect life is real. When the men actually go off to their jobs in the simulation, and we see our main character is actually being held hostage in real life, put into this simulation by her boyfriend. It's so shocking and disturbing, so I think I'm going to put this one in A tier. It's not like boo scary, but it is like real life scary. And lastly is Hereditary. In this film, we follow a family who are grieving from the loss of their grandma. They're dealing with a lot and then are suddenly hit by another major loss. This is a terrifying family drama, and for me personally, it has one of the scariest endings. I think for me, kind of like the scariest thing in horror is when you don't notice something on screen at first, but then you notice it after you're staring at the screen for a while, and that kind of like makes you jump. That is exactly what happens at the end of this film. Their family is actually deeply rooted in a cult, and they basically need a male sacrifice for the demon of King Payman to go into. In the last few scenes, we see the mum, Annie, be possessed, and there's a moment where she is on the ceiling and it's in the dark, so you don't really see it at first, but when you see it, for me personally, that's just a moment I will never forget. The ending is really intense. The horror elements really ramp up. We get some gore, we get some crazy scenes. Annie is crawling all over the ceilings, she's banging her head against the loft door, and then she starts sawing her head off with a piano wire. Because it's one that just sticks in my head, I have to put it in S tier. Obviously, I've seen it so many times now, so it doesn't really have the same impact, but I just remember the first few times I watched this film, it was just so crazy, and I love a horror film that really takes it there. Whenever I talk about Hereditary, I feel like I usually get a few comments of people hating on it, which is completely fine. You can have your opinion, I can have my opinion, and that's that, as long as you're respectful. So this is our finished tier list today. There actually isn't any in the bottom tier, but I will be using this same template to do some more scary horror ending tier lists, so I'm sure we'll eventually put a few in the bottom tier. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you would like additional content or to support my channel, then you can always join my Patreon. I will link it in the description. I'll see you again in another one very soon.